It was a haunting walk down memory lane, compiling the 8 biggest chokes in sports history. The human brain can play amusing tricks, and nothing puts you under more pressure than the entire world watching you disintegrate. It doesn't matter what sport or how amazing the athlete is, we all can choke. Stay in as we count down the top 8 sporting chokes in history. Before we delve into the specifics of the subject, what do we know about the chokes? Avoiding choking is essential for becoming a top achiever in sports. What distinguishes the pros from those who lose their cool on school sports days? As a result, when sporting celebrities lose their cool on a huge stage, it's tough not to laugh. One thing became clear when researching this list: golf is the sport where choking is most easily observed. It could have been made up solely of golfers who messed up. The choice to limit the mighty turn mortal by the small white ball to 2 instances is why Jean Van de Velde, 1999 Open, Bernhard Langer, 1991 Ryder Cup, and countless others were left out. This is not to claim that there are more chokers in golf than in any other sport. It is only that those who cringe in other sports are not as quickly seen. Did the World Cup striker who missed an open goal lose his cool? Or did he make a hash of it in one of those unexplainable bursts of incompetence? Was the Olympic sprinter's loss in the final due to the high environment or a bad day? Every attempt has been made to find individuals who broke under pressure rather than those who failed for no apparent reason, as even the finest do from time to time. A senior snooker observer, for example, stated that Jimmy White's missed black in the 1994 final was too close for it to be anything other than a choke. After someone questioned his inclusion in 1972, we asked David Bedford to confirm he choked. Let's look at the 8 greatest chokes in sports history. First, at number 1, Jana Novotná. At 40-30 in the 6th game of the deciding set, Novotná had a service point, which would have given her a 5-1 lead over Steffi Graf. Steffi Graf was trailing Novotná 6-7, 6-1, 4-1, but Novotná committed a double fault, and what would arguably become the greatest fall from grace in a Wimbledon final was underway. After more than 10 minutes, Graf was declared the winner, 7-6, 1-6, 6-4. During the awards ceremony, the Duchess of Kent comforted the Czech player by telling her, "Don't worry, Jana, you'll be back next year." That was the final straw for Novotná, and she lost control of her emotions while sobbing uncontrollably on the Duchess's shoulder. "I wanted to handle myself well," she said, "but when she smiled, I just let go." Following that, at number 2, England penalty takers. A public reprimand by roll call. Please step forward with Stuart Pearce, Chris Waddle, Gareth Southgate, Paul Ince, and David Batty. Imagine a scenario in which England competes against an opponent, such as in the semi-final of a major competition. They will flourish if allowed to compete against a superior team. They will triumph despite the losses, the tears, the close calls, and the red cards. After an exciting first 120 minutes of football, the 2 teams are tied, and the game must proceed to a penalty shootout to determine the winner. After that, the event takes place. Someone has to be the one to get it wrong, be the one to fail, and take the blame. But why does it have to be a man who wears 3 lions on his shirt that finds kicking a ball into a goal from 12 yards away so bloody difficult? Next up, at number 3, David Bedford. David Bedford was among the most feared track athletes over long distances during the era that followed the Australian Ron Clark reign and preceded the Africans' dominance. This period falls between the end of Ron Clark's power and the beginning of the Africans' domination. The British athlete had the opportunity to redeem himself in the 5,000-meter race at the 1972 Olympics after a disappointing performance in the 10,000-meter race, in which he finished 6th. He held the number 1 spot in the world rankings and had recently gotten within 1 second of Clark's record for the fastest time ever. When the race slowed down and became more of a strategic contest, Bedford, naturally more aggressive up front, appeared to have the advantage set up for him. But after 4 laps, which was the point at which he was supposed to move ahead, Bedford, who appeared to be weighed down by expectation, lost heart and finished in an anonymous position down the field. Moving on to number 4, Roberto Duran. Most athletes would instead know one notice when they choke than have the world view their loss as tainted by an inner concession to defeat. The fearsome Panamanian boxer Roberto Duran was known for unconventionally doing things. In his welterweight title fight against Sugar Ray Leonard in New Orleans in 1980, Roberto Duran executed one of the most brazen and blatant chokes in the history of the sport. Sugar Ray Leonard was knocked out. In the 8th round, Duran abruptly stopped fighting and yelled, "No mas, no mas." As a response to Leonard's deft movement, which had left him bewildered and frustrated. He was at his breaking point and didn't care who found out about it. Following that, at number 5, Doug Sanders. Doug Sanders won the Open Championship in 1970 at St. Andrews by beating the legendary Jack Nicklaus by 1 stroke. Sanders won the tournament with 2 putts from 30 feet. Sanders' initial attempt, which involved walking downhill and across the green, fell 30 inches short of the target. After that, everything went from bad to worse. Sanders reflects, "I was confident standing over it, and then I saw what I thought was a little piece of sand on my line. Without moving my feet, I knelt to pick it up, but it turned out to be a blade of grass," he said. "I moved far away but didn't give myself enough time to reorganize. The shot I took was off, and the ball went to the right of the hole. It was the most expensive putt ever missed in the game's history." Too true. The following day, Nicklaus defeated him in a playoff consisting of 18 holes. Next up, at number 6, Jimmy White. It was inevitable that Jimmy White would have a breakout year in this one. The Whirlwind had lost in 5 World Finals, including the first 4 of the 1990s, but now, in the tightest of showdowns against his arch-rival Stephen Hendry, victory was just a few putts away. A 75 clearance by Whitehead brought the score to 17-17, and in the deciding frame, he had a straightforward black off the spot to put the championship out of Hendry's reach. White won the match and claimed the title. "It was a bread-and-butter pot for someone of Jimmy's class," said one veteran observer, but he missed it by so much that it could have only been a choke. Jimmy did not win the pot. Moving on to number 7, Gavin Hastings. Gavin Hastings, known as Mr. Reliable in Scotland, was faced with a task that should have been as easy as turning off a light switch. However, when it comes to the World Cup semi-final against England, in front of your home crowd, a penalty kick from the post can unsettle even the most ice-cold-blooded players. It turned out that Hastings scored a try, keeping the score tied at 6-6 until England's Rob Andrew kicked a drop goal to win the game. When Hastings' kick went out of the plan, the customarily reserved England winger Rory Underwood let out an expletive consisting of 4 letters in his surprise. That should give you an idea of how shocking it was. Finally, at number 8, Scott Boswell. When you mention Boswell to a cricket fanatic, you can almost guarantee they will shed a tear out of sympathy. In the final C&G Trophy in 2001, a bowler for Leicestershire named Scott Boswell was struck down by a severe case of the yips. Boswell's performance was a total and utter disaster, as he bowled an incredible 14-ball over that included 8 wides, including a string of 5 in a row. His performance is considered one of the worst overs in cricket history, and Boswell was left looking like a cluttered wreck after it. All of this came from a player who, in the previous round, had taken 4 wickets while allowing 44 runs, all of which were scored by England internationals. Boswell was given his release from his contract with Leicestershire a month after the conclusion of the match. Well, that marks the end of our video for today. We hope you enjoyed it. On your way out, hit that subscribe button for more content like this in the future. Thanks for watching.